Welcome back for week 4 of Unit 3, KCA Grammar. Get out your papers and a pencil and get ready to start learning because we've got a lot of grammar to do today. So as you can see on your papers for the grammar lesson today, there's a lot of vocabulary on there. So basically, you're just going to want to review all of this because these are things that can be on your test and they're things that you need to know. And it's a lot of stuff that you already do know, but sometimes it's good to reread over definitions like this. Make sure you're clear on what each word means and how to use it. So there's not a main. So our first sentence says, because my soup was too cold, I heated it. So remember what you're supposed to ask yourself in a sentence like this is this a complex or a compound sentence? Are they independent clauses, dependent clauses? What's the situation? So you're going to just read the sentence to yourself. Because my soup was too cold, I heated it. You're going to want to distinguish the independent clauses from the dependent clauses. So in this case, you can tell, because my soup was too cold cannot stand alone. Is that an independent clause? No. That could not stand alone as its own sentence. So that's a dependent clause. Then we know that this one, I heated it, that can definitely stand alone. So that's going to be an independent clause. So we already know, because it's an independent clause and a dependent clause, that this is going to be a complex sentence. Alright, so let's begin labeling. We already know because is going to be a conjunction. This is our subordinating conjunction. In the first clause, our noun actually is going to be soup. Soup is the subject of the sentence. Because my soup was too cold, I heated it. Was is going to be our verb here. Now this verb is going to be a linking verb. We can see this because it's pointing to what the soup is. The soup is cold. So as we reviewed before, a linking verb acts just as an equal sign. Soup equals cold. So we know that cold is going to be our predicate adjective. Too is going to be an adjective as well. It's saying how cold? Too cold. So too is actually modifying cold. And then my is also a possessive adjective. Whose soup? My soup. And then in the second clause, I heated it. The subject is I doing the action, and that's a pronoun. Heated. This is going to be a transitive verb because it's transferring action to the direct object, which is it. Alright, so let's diagram this one. And let's see if you guys remember. The one that goes on top is not necessarily what comes first in the sentence, but it's going to be the independent clause that you diagram on top. So I heated it. The subject is I. Heated is the verb transitive. And we know how to diagram this. I heated it. And then again, we're going to put our dependent clause on the bottom because it has to be connected by this subordinating conjunction. And we're going to diagram this just as normal. Soup is our subject noun. Was is our verb, and it's a linking verb. So the way we diagram that is a sideways line so that cold points back to soup. And then my modifies soup. Whose soup? My soup. And too modifies cold because it's explaining how cold, too cold. And then, of course, we're going to connect this as we do in a complex sentence. And because remains capitalized since it's capitalized here. So, because my soup was too cold, I heated it. Right? And as we said, this is going to be a complex sentence. And it's a declarative sentence. Okay, so our second sentence says, although he was wealthy, he was still unhappy. So we're going to start by picking out our independent clauses from our dependent clauses to figure out if this is a compound or a complex sentence. So we can see we have two clauses here. Although he was wealthy, and he was still unhappy. So we can see that he was still unhappy. This is definitely going to be an independent clause. That can stand alone as its own sentence. The other clause says, although he was wealthy, and this cannot stand alone as its own clause. So we have a dependent clause, although he was wealthy, and an independent clause, he was still unhappy, which of course makes this a complex sentence. So we're going to start by labeling. Although he was wealthy, remember although is going to be our subordinating conjunction here. He was wealthy. He is our subject pronoun. Was is going to be a verb. I want to let you guys think about what kind of verb this is. It's a verb linking. This is a linking verb, linking the predicate adjective wealthy to he. Remember, he equals wealthy. So we know that that's going to be a linking verb. Now moving on to the second part of the sentence, he was still unhappy. He is our subject pronoun. And again, was is going to be a linking verb, and unhappy is a predicate adjective. Now the word still is going to be a little tricky. Still is actually going to be an adverb here. It's describing unhappy. And that's where the part of your definition on adverbs comes into play, that an adverb can modify an adjective. Remember, an adverb can modify a verb, an adjective, or another adverb. So let's begin diagramming. So as you can recall from the last sentences, our dependent clause is always going to go on the bottom, while the independent clause is going to go on top. So we're going to start with the clause, he was still unhappy. He is our subject pronoun. Was is a linking verb, and you guys remember how to diagram a linking verb with a predicate adjective. Points back, because unhappy points back to he. So now it's time for the second clause. Wait, we still have a word to add. So still is going to modify unhappy. So for the second clause, the subject is he. The verb is was. Predicate adjective pointing back to he. Although he was wealthy, he was still unhappy. Then we're going to connect with a subordinating conjunction. Alright, so this is a complex sentence, and it is a declarative sentence. So our sentence says, she returned the computer after she noticed the damage. First, we're going to point out our different types of clauses here. So she returned the computer and after she noticed the damage. We see that after she noticed the damage, that's going to be a dependent clause because it cannot stand alone, as after is a subordinating conjunction. She returned the computer is going to be an independent clause. So we can tell from just looking at it now that this is going to be a complex sentence. The first clause says she returned the computer. So she is going to be our subject pronoun. Returned is our verb. What type of verb is this? It's a verb transitive because we're transferring the action to computer. So computer is going to be a direct object, and of course the is an article adjective. Here, after is going to be our subordinating conjunction. She is the subject pronoun of this clause. Notice is also going to be our verb, and it's going to be a verb transitive as well, because she noticed what, she noticed damaged, which is our direct object, and the is an article adjective. So remember that the dependent clause always goes on the bottom, while the independent clause always goes on the top. So we're going to start with she returned computer is our direct object, and the modifies computer. And then our second clause, the dependent clause, says she is our subject pronoun. Notice is going to be a verb transitive, and damage is a direct object. And then the modifies damage, because it's asking what damage? The damage. And we're just going to connect these like we have been with a subordinating conjunction on a slanted line between the clauses. So, of course, this is going to be a complex sentence, and it's going to be an interrogative sentence because it's asking a question. So our next sentence says, she loves brownies and cupcakes, and she packs them for her lunch. So again, we're going to start by picking out the clauses. There's one clause, and there's another clause. So she loves brownies and cupcakes. We can tell that this is an independent clause. It can stand alone, and she packs them for her lunch. So this is also going to be an independent clause because if you want to refer back to your notes that tell you the subordinating conjunctions, and is a coordinating conjunction, which indicates that it's a compound sentence. She packs them for her lunch. That is an independent clause. That can stand alone. It's connected by a coordinating conjunction, which is what is found in a compound sentence. So we can already tell that this is going to be a compound sentence. Alright, so let's start by labeling. In the first clause, she loves brownies and cupcakes. She's going to be our subject pronoun. Loves is going to be a verb transitive. And there are two direct objects here, which is actually something I don't think we've seen before, but we're going to diagram it the same as we would a compound subject. So that's going to be a conjunction between the two direct objects. The word and here is a coordinating conjunction. The second clause, she, is our subject pronoun. Packs is a verb. What type of verb is it? It's a transitive. It's transferring the action to them, which is our direct object. Then for her lunch is going to be a prepositional phrase. Then for is going to be an adjective. It's a possessive adjective modifying lunch. So, just going to begin. She, our subject pronoun. Loves is going to be our transitive verb. And then, see, we're just going to diagram this the same that we do any compound subject or verb by using the little rocket. She loves brownies and cupcakes. Then we're just going to continue diagramming this like a compound sentence. She packs. Them is our direct object. Then our prepositional phrase for their lunch. And we're going to connect it with our coordinating conjunction and. So this is going to be a compound sentence, and it's going to be a declarative sentence. Oop, and here I realize I put there rather than her. She loves cupcakes and brownies, and she packs them for her lunch. So always read through your diagramming before you turn it in, because sometimes you'll make simple mistakes just like that. It's no big deal, but you just have to always read it through. Make sure you correct it. Our next sentence says, the teacher ran quickly and she fell. So again, we're going to look at what type of clauses we have. So we have the teacher ran quickly and she fell. So this is going to be an independent clause. The teacher ran quickly, it can stand alone. And she fell, well, it's connected by a coordinating conjunction. And she fell can stand alone as an independent clause. So thus, it's two independent clauses joined by a coordinating conjunction. So we know that this is going to be a compound sentence. So let's begin labeling. The is an article adjective modifying our subject, teacher. What did the teacher do? She ran. What type of verb is this? It is intransitive. It's not transferring any action. It's not linking or helping. Quickly is going to be an adverb. It's modifying ran. How did she run? She ran quickly. And is going to be our coordinating conjunction. She is going to be subject pronoun. And fell is going to be a verb intransitive. So for the first clause, our subject is teacher. Teacher ran. How did she run? Quickly goes under ran because it's modifying ran. The modifies teacher. Which teacher? The teacher. She is the pronoun, the subject pronoun of the second clause. And fell is an intransitive verb. Since it's a compound sentence, remember we connect it with a conjunction in this way. That's how you connect the clauses in a compound sentence, while in a complex sentence, it looks like this. So of course this is going to be a compound sentence, and it's a declarative sentence.